Hello, everyone. Welcome. How are you, Footy?
How's it going, Ari?
Pretty good. Pretty
It's
good.
it's that time again for our sipping segment.
I've been looking
And
forward to it.
as the weather gets warmer, it seems like it's getting warmer a lot earlier than I expected.
Yeah.
But warmer weather calls for cooler wines. And in this segment, we're going to explore the great variety Sauvignon Blanc
Sauvignon Blanc. Okay. So, I mean, I've drank it before many times.
together. Yes, we drink a lot of Sauvignon Blanc.
what what can you tell me? What can you tell me that I don't know because I don't really know much?
So Sauvignon Blanc has been picking up a lot of popularity lately. Um, Prior to the last couple of years, maybe a little more, the second most consumed white wine was Pinot Grigio here in the East Coast. And obviously, I get the questions, well, what's number one? Chardonnay still happens to be the number one white wine consumed all across the board. And in second place was Pinot Grigio. And then just recently, in the last couple of years, Sauvignon Blanc has made tremendous strides in making that second place. And it's been driven by a handful of elements. One is Sauvignon Blanc is a variety that's produced, and grown around the world that produces very fresh, crisp white wine. But New Zealand has a big factor in its popularity. They've done a tremendous job marketing their Sauvignon Blancs in a specific style. So where most folks today in the market think of Sauvignon Blanc, most consumers will think of New Zealand first. But Sauvignon Blanc's origins do come from France, and it's made its way around the world. So in this segment, we'd like to kind of show the differences in the two different types of wines made from the same grape. So we're going to explore Sauvignon Blanc from the south of France and Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand. And we'll do it step by step together. We'll actually crack the bottles together. We'll take the aromas in together. We'll sip together, and then we'll talk about it together. How's that sound? So quickly, we're going to revisit one of our favorite producers, Sacha Lachine, and we're going to try his white wine called Le Plus Blanche. And it's 100% Sauvignon Blanc, and it does come from the south of France. And then from New Zealand, we're going to try this small production called The Little Sheep of New Zealand. It seems that wines that have animals on the labels tend to do well. But besides the fact that it has sheep on the label, it's a great expression and a great example of well-made white wine from New Zealand. Now, just a couple of quick tips and notes about New Zealand. New Zealand happens to be in the southern hemisphere, and the time zone and climates are a little different, obviously. So New Zealand is a little ahead of our time, meaning that the seasons are it's one season ahead in New Zealand. So typically you might see more current vintages on their wines because they harvest earlier, which means that, for example, if we're in 2020, probably in the next couple of months, maybe in September, we're going to see wines labeled from 2020. And then from the Northern Hemisphere, we're going to see wines from one season before. So you're going to see 2019.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
All right. So without further ado, let's first crack our French white wine, Le Plus Blanche. And notice that they're both screw caps, which is my favorites. Easy to open, right? So sometimes I like to give a little bit of a whiff from the bottle, and then we'll pour.
Ooh.
Now we're just gonna smell. We're not gonna sip, okay? Swirl it a little bit.
Aroma.
Right. So very subtle but very fresh aromas. I'm gonna open up the New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. Well, can tell right away. Very lively aromas right off the bat. And we'll pour that into the glass. We'll set that down. And right away, I get punched in the nose with citrus. So going back again. So here we are, the same grape from two different parts of the world, two different types of climates, soils, and what have you, but yet they still produce relatively light, crisp wines. So French, New Zealand. So Ari, what are you thinking? What are you smelling so far? Are you noticing any distinct differences in the aromas to begin with? I know I'm just talking in general. You don't need to give me any specifics, but
Yeah, a little bit. What's
okay.
your take?
As long as the average person can distinguish that, then that's a great start. So why don't we sip or take a sip of the French Sauvignon Blanc?
I want to say like smooth, almost buttery, like
Texture-wise, it's like creamy,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Very
definitely,
soft.
yeah.
So it has low acid for a Sauvignon Blanc, but it's
Say-
still there.
yeah.
It kind of comes up towards the finish, but it still possesses very clean, fresh citrus flavors, but they're
Like
a little more toned down,
yeah, I was gonna say citrus but tone.
which this is very typical of French style Sauvignon Blancs from specific areas or from a general area. There are specific areas in France, specifically in the Loire Valley, and again, specifically in smaller regions like Sancerre, that produce Sauvignon Blancs that are a little more refined, they have more structure, they have a little higher acid. Um, Whereas here, these are productions where the grapes are sourced from different areas and they're brought to the winery and they're made in this fashion. More of a less of a everyday drinking white wine. So now that we've got to try the French Sauvignon Blanc, let's move over to the New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc.
All right.
And again, right away, the aromas are still prominent in the New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. And then we'll take our first sip. So this is, to me, loaded with grapefruit, lemon lime factor, and has higher acidity.
Is citrus more abundant here?
Oh yeah.
Is the citrus more on this one? I think I feel it too.
What do you feel?
That the citrus is more dominant here.
Very dominant, yes. So the grape here possesses more of that element. It has more concentration of flavors of grapefruit. And on the finish, though, is where I get the lemon lime factor. But up front, I get grapefruit.
I can see that. I can taste that.
Now, you might hear folks say that it has like a grassy element. Now, the last time I ate grass was probably when I was like 6 or 7 in the backyard. But it's almost reminding us of when, freshly cut grass that has a certain aroma that hits the air, connects us to that memory.
I feel like
But
the smells always connect us to a taste, but even if you've never tasted it, you kind of feel like you
correct.
taste it.
So like sometimes we also get folks to say it reminds me of wet rocks. All right, I can kind of relate to that because when you're on the beach or when you're on at a river or at a stream, more likely maybe a stream of fresh water, and there's a lot of rocks. There is some kind of aroma that's lifted from wet rocks that kind of can remind us of that. But this has some minerality to it too as well. And again, what is minerality? It's just the flavors remind us of minerals.
Yeah.
So you can see that clearly now that you had the firsthand experience of tasting side by side French Sauvignon Blanc and New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, that French Sauvignon Blancs are a little more elegant and soft, but still well balanced.
Mm.
New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc is a little more vibrant, lively, really packs a punch with flavor, and it has enough acidity that dances on your palate. And on a pretty warm day outside, or on a patio or what have you, that feeling and sensation feels good as you're sipping it.
I feel like if I was eating, I would pick the French, and if I was drinking standalone, I would take the New Zealand.
That's a very great point. Yes, good point, Ari. Um, French Sauvignon Blancs do have that great balance that pairs with food, and New Zealand Sauvignon Blancs are great on their own. You can obviously still great with food, but they can both actually serve both purposes.
Yeah.
Um, they're inexpensive. They're great everyday drinking wines. These are great examples to show that you don't need to spend a lot of money to get great wine. And great wine, basically, at the end of the day, is what I consider your personal perspective, your personal tastes. But both wines have inviting aromas and textures and flavors.
Yes. If you guys out there are interested, we do have these wines on our shopping cart at Urban Wine Club. So if your interest has been piqued, definitely check that out.
Absolutely, we highly recommend them. They are considered our Urban Wine Club picks that we personally source ourselves and feel will bring great value and experiences to your glass.
Absolutely. All right, cool. Thank you, Forky. Thanks for
My
sending
pleasure.
me so I could enjoy them with you. And I guess I'm just gonna go finish these bottles because what am I gonna do with them? I'm
I
not
think
gonna.
I'll do the same thing here. But yes, until the next segment, cheers.
Cheers.